everybody. It's me. I'm back. You haven't seen me very much lately. Welcome to the Unwatched Pile. Stephen Billings, Andrew Cabral here.
Hello,
How's it
hello.
going, man? It's
Going
weird.
good, going good.
It feels like so long. Yeah, I'm gonna take the saying that you always say. God, it feels like it's like been just yesterday. In this case, God, it feels so long ago that we did this, me and you, together.
What you talk about Unwatched Pile? Yeah, I think
Well,
it's
I mean,
been,
just in general.
yeah, that's
When
very
was the
true.
last time that we were doing
Uh,
something?
May, when we did Unwatched Pile. When we
Yeah,
did
it was.
anything live.
I guess it
Very
wasn't
much.
that long, but it feels forever ago.
It does feel forever ago. It feels like there's been so much happened in between that time, yet it also feels like nothing has happened in
Oh
between
my
that
God!
time.
See, here he is. He's a philosopher here. You just
Clearly, you don't watch the new Chasing Labels with just me pontificating for 2 hours straight.
well, as I told you, like I mean, to be honest, if I'm being completely honest, I do like to listen to some of it. But to be honest, if I was listening to all the stuff, then it would be like me being on here again.
Yeah, you might as well just be on it.
I might as well just keep doing it if I was to just listen
I,
to all these.
I don't
Part of
know
the
how.
reason.
Yeah, I was say I don't know how algorithms work, but as long as you listen to a little bit of it, I think it counts as a listen
Yeah,
or a review. So it all works.
yeah. When I know that there's a release that I'm interested in, I pop on and I'm like, I gotta hear what Andrew's got to say about this. But for the most part, it's part of it. It's a therapy for me because I'm trying to, not, be so active in the buying section of my life. So to help pull back, not keeping my head filled with it so much makes it a lot easier not to buy so much stuff. So that's me just trying to help myself. But enough of that shit. Unwatched Pile. This is number 14. And we got Celeste back. Celeste, this is, I think, their third time here. So she's in the backstage, in the green room, probably drinking some drinks, talking to some rock stars, whoever's there. We got people back there. But before we get into it, if you have never watched the Unwatched Pile, which I guess is kind of weird saying it like that, the Unwatched Pile, haven't watched it. Well, you should have been watching this because this is the show where we get to that pile of movies that we've been, because us as collectors, we buy stuff. Sometimes we don't get to it because I know me, I'm really interested in film and I just buy this stuff and I haven't seen it and it just sits there and I feel so guilty. But this show is the redeeming factor in my life. I get one of the movies, I watch it, I come on here to give my first impressions, and then I pair it up. We all pair it up with a film we've seen in our collections that kind of feels like a nice, pairing, nice double feature. So we got a lot of people popping. Of course, Josephine's still around, even with me not around. There she is.
She's here every week. She's a staunch loyal supporter of Chasing Labels, as well as Humboldt Horror Honey.
Of course,
she's here every week as well.
Hi, hello. I'm glad to see everybody still hanging around. I knew it wasn't just me. I knew Andrew was the reason people watched anyway.
I guess people like hearing what I have to say about things.
You do, man. You do a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I don't know. I wasn't worried that you weren't going to be able to do that show because you do all the talking anyway. And I was like, it's just good. Now he's just going to be like, feel like he's going crazy because he's going to be talking to himself.
It's very surreal. Very surreal.
But thanks everybody that's here live. Let's not wait any longer. Let's make sure Celeste is she's drinking a little too much, and let's get her out here. Get the drinks at you, Celeste. Thank God.
I got my.
There's clinks. You hear the clinks?
I got my chocolate soy milk. Getting really getting fucked up over here.
Yeah, I know, right? I got my little beverage.
Soy will get it. We'll get to you.
Yeah.
Celeste. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Life.
It is what it is.
Life.
It's been a lot. So, but I'm happy to do a sort of soft return to the whole being public on the internet thing.
That's good.
On this venue, because I always like being on here. I don't know if you can hear my cat. He's crying outside.
Yeah,
he wants to come inside, but he can't because he'll ruin the whole thing.
Well, it's okay. I got a cat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, Josephine, Ronnie, and Humboldt. all here today. Happy birthday, Josephine. And I'm noticing that this chat is 100% women, which is perhaps unusual in this space. So, doing something right over here.
Yeah, I don't know what we're doing. It's Andrew doing it. He's doing
I guess
something
so.
right.
It's usually this is the usual crowd, and then Tony from Australia, he
Tony.
usually pops in as well.
Yeah.
It was his birthday a few weeks ago as well. Then it was Josephine's birthday. My birthday was last month. A lot of summer birthdays.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Humboldt. I appreciate that. They're new for me. And thank you, Ronnie. It's good to see you too.
Awesome, guys. Well, I'm glad to have everybody here. Of course, if you don't know what Celeste does, of course, she's been absent lately, but she's still got a lot of great stuff over there on her channel, a lot of analysis video. Of course, guests on our shows, is guested on Disconnected a lot, doing a lot of stuff for, talking about Vinegar Syndrome sales. You still got the subscription? You still getting stuff?
I do. I haven't. I'm at this point a full 6 months behind on my reviews, but the January stuff is shot and mostly edited. It just needs to actually be on the internet.
Yeah.
And I've watched up until April. I just need to actually make the videos and stuff.
Look, I understand it. Like even me that has taken some of the responsibility away from myself. I had things I'm like, I need to do a review for that because and I'm like, sometimes you don't have the motivation or you got other things going on. It's tough.
It's been a really awful year, so I haven't really had a lot going on.
You've had a lot. I know
in terms of that. Yeah. But I'm also going to be reviewing Terror Vision and Death Crocodile releases going forward. So while I'm doing nothing, I have made my workload exponentially larger. So that is good and makes sense for me. So
good. Well, without further ado, let's get into the unwatched pile this week. Celeste, please. Usually I let the public know what we're going to be the first time watches. I forget to post that. So please let everybody know, what is your first time watch for this episode?
Sure. I spoiled it on my page, so some people might know. But I thought I'd finally take a crack at this Criterion edition of Black Narcissus.
Hell yeah.
For reasons that will maybe make sense when we get to my double feature pick. But it's something that I've been wanting to watch for a long time, especially since I finally saw The Red Shoes and just really adored that. And that was the first time watch this year. And I was like, well, yeah, it's amazing. I think it's better than this, but this is still really, really great. I had kind of, it's one of those films where I'm like, I feel like this is exactly made for me and it's going to be like a perfect 10 or something. So like the hype was pretty high. And it maybe didn't quite live up to those expectations, but I did still really love it. And I thought it was like really interesting thematically, but also like, I don't know what was going on with these dudes, Powell and Pressburger, but like the visuals on this are just fucking insane. Like again, like Red Shoes too. And I've seen Peeping Tom, which I really love too, even though that's just the one.
Just Michael Powell. Yeah.
You could have a framed print of literally any shot in this film and it would be incredible. It's like cinema, like as artifice. Like, I don't know, like there's no, I mean, actually it is kind of convincing. Some of these matte paintings look pretty convincing, but it's sort of like, we don't have to, like, we're not making a documentary here. We can make whatever images we want. Why be like constrained to like what exists in nature or like what we can naturally come up with? Like we can just create whatever we want. And I don't know. It's just every single, like, it was like at least 3 times a scene. I was like, oh, that's like one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. That's really cool.
That's great. Yeah. I think there is something about, today the film is of course you just littered with digital effects and when you're just talking about like sky replacement or background replacement, it's usually not something that we really notice probably, because they use it all the time. But, I think there is something to like a convincing matte painting that even though, it's maybe limited in what it can, like, because there's no movement, there's no, there's no wind blowing, there's no, but there is something really cool about the texture of that, the background of that. And it's like the whole screen is now art. Like that's a cool
Like,
thing. A cool thing that's lost nowadays.
for sure.
So
Yeah, the clouds are often a big giveaway for that kind of thing. But I don't know, like some of the later Hitchcock stuff when he was doing it, like probably past when it was appropriate and like it didn't look quite right. Some of those matte paintings kind of stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
But this one, I don't know, there was something to the way that they framed these shots and like the perspective and everything where like this shot that is on the cover, which is like straight up one of the coolest shots I've ever seen. Like when it first showed up on the screen, I was like, how the fuck did they get that shot? That's insane. And then it took me like a second and I was like, you know what, I bet that's a painting. But it looks really good. You know, man, yeah, good stuff.
So what's how much? So you said you've seen the Red Shoes, and you've seen this. Any other Powell and Pressburger that you've been looking into that you want to visit?
Well, I'd like to see all of it, honestly. But yeah, other than that, it's just Peeping Tom is the only one that I've seen, which is way different than those these kind of like fantastical sort of Technicolor epics. Yeah, so I definitely need to get to like Tales of Hoffman, I think is another big one, and there's another one that is escaping.
Matters of Life and Death is another.
Yeah, that one
or
too.
Also known as Stairway to Heaven. That's another one that's really good.
And the
okay, I listened to the commentary today with Powell and Scorsese, and they referenced Stairway to Heaven. I wasn't sure what they were talking about, so that makes sense.
Yeah. And then there's the life of Colonel Blimp.
Life and Death of Colonel
Blimp. I just need to get through all of them.
Yeah.
I think they're all Janus films too, so it should be on the Criterion channel. And
they are. They're either all on there. Actually, I think they are on it. Even the stuff that's only on DVD, like the 49th Parallel, I think is also available on there. I think they've got all of Michael Powell's stuff on there. I'm pretty sure. Famously, Michael Powell was married to Thelma Shoemaker, the editor for all of Scorsese's films, I think from Raging Bull up until now. I believe Scorsese introduced them, and that's how they got together. She's still editing his work to this day. Yeah, that movie, the cinematographer for Black Narcissus is, I believe, Conrad Hall. I think that's the cinematographer, and he was way ahead of his time when it came to Technicolor photography and all that kind of stuff. It's that famous 3-strip Technicolor that everybody knows about. If you think of like the movies from the 30s, you know, like Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, all those great Technicolor films. What's interesting about a lot of that stuff is that a lot of the original elements of that stuff's completely gone because it was like 3 strips over or like together. So they would like lose it, or if a movie was super popular, they would just use the negative until it ran out, basically, or they would just dump it, or you know they were made out of like nitrate, so they would just explode randomly. You know what I mean? A lot of that stuff. The Black Narcissus, the I know Celeste will probably get more into it, but the themes in that movie I think are fascinating and kind of relevant, like eternally relevant.
Yeah, I know that the 3-strip Technicolor, I don't remember exactly why. Maybe it's something to do with the processing plants that don't exist anymore or something, but like you can't make films like that anymore, which is unfortunate, but it does make them more special as like a testament or like a sort of snapshot in time of sorts, you know. Yeah, I would like to talk about the themes real quick, because going into it, I was expecting it to be, I guess, more dark, more transgressive. I should have probably tempered my expectations for 1940s. And like even with what we have, apparently the Catholic League of Decency or whatever dumb shit was going on back then, like it like made sure that they cut like 20 minutes of it because it was still too much. And I believe this is the uncut version because they were referencing stuff that was cut in the commentary that we were, you know, watching. So it's not like like a lot of the more modern or, you know, more exploitative like nunsploitation stuff, but it's also not like immaculate or anything like that. You know, like we're not being so on the nose as to like the temptations of the nuns or whatever. It's more subtle, but it is also still there, absolutely. And it is like a fairly erotic film, just not in the way that you might expect. It's more like sensual and it's more subtle. but honestly, even though that's the theme that I find to be the most interesting in these types of films, like The Nun Story is one of my favorite films ever, and it's such a great like breakdown of the kind of suppression and oppression of women that goes on in a convent, and like a woman's journey to like kind of escape that and like find her own self outside of that context. It's just such a great film. I don't have it, so it's not my double feature for today. But Warner Archive recently put it out, so y'all should get it.
Awesome.
What I found the most interesting about this, because we do have that theme, and I'm going to try not to spoil anything because I know not everybody has seen it. We do have sort of people being forced into the faith and kind of finding their way out of it, that kind of thing. And that is a fairly consistent thematic through line. But to me, this actually reads more as like a fairly scathing indictment of colonialism and like the failures of that. It's kind of hard to go into why without spoiling it, but just like kind of vaguely, like the conceit of the film is that like these white Catholic nuns are establishing a convent in kind of a rural village in India and kind of imposing their methods of education and medicine and all this stuff. And let's just say it doesn't go the way that they planned. And I think that it is making a comment on that dynamic, generally speaking, as opposed to just in this one instance. That's where I'll leave it to avoid spoiling it.
All right. Of course, coming from two British directors too, it makes that interesting as well. But yeah, it's I know this film is definitely held up as definitely some of their best work. It's one I haven't watched in a minute. It's one of them. It's actually, I would consider it one of the essential criterions. Like, like it's kind of one of the,
like Criterion 101. Like,
it
got,
is
like,
kind of
your essential
staple
grouping.
Yeah.
That everybody seems to have in their collection. I feel like that, like Black Narcissus is one of them. It's if I remember, it's an early number, isn't it?
It's pretty early, yeah. Apparently there's a TV series of Black Narcissus.
I was not even aware of it. I was thinking of reading the source novel, but I'll have to check out the TV series. That sounds fun.
Yeah, I think it came out in the last few years, so it's like current.
Okay. Nice.
It's current. I think it was on FX. I want to say FX. I don't know why.
Okay.
So it's probably on Hulu somewhere.
Josephine also asked me, you're ahead of me. Yep. What movie Afterlife I want to go to? I can't even think of that many outside of like Defending Your Life or like What Dreams May Come. But my answer is going to be Rivendell in Lord of the Rings, because it's the only one I can think of that is even slightly appealing.
I would go to the movie Afterlife, the one where the Japanese film where they actually you go to the afterlife and then they make your favorite memory using filmmaking. They create your favorite. Nice. I know, right? It's a cool movie.
I've not seen it.
Yeah, it's in a Criterion collection. It's
it's Hirokazu Koreeda's film.
Yeah, Koreeda, fantastic Japanese director who's still, what was his most recent film? Monster. He just recently did Monster. He did Shoplifters a few years back ago. Really great film. Tons of good stuff. He's got a set on Arrow. It was an Arrow Academy release. It's got some good stuff in it.
Nice.
But yeah, Afterlife, that would be mine, because I mean, I can't think of any other better way to spend my afterlife than filming my favorite memory and then reliving it for the rest of my life. At least that's how they say it. Andrew, what about you?
In terms of
it would be Lord of the Rings, wouldn't it?
Probably, yeah. I'm leaning more towards what Celeste was saying. She stole mine, basically.
Yeah.
Because Rivendell looks like a heavenly paradise of a place.
And then you get past the light and it's like, it's all fire. You're like, no.
Well, what's interesting is that Rivendell's kind of like an oasis in Middle Earth. If you look at the map, it's like after that you get to like the mountains and it's snowy and cold and freezing, and then if you go south, you get closer to Mordor, which is obviously fire and brimstone and hell, basically. Yeah. I mean, the Shire is also very nice as well. It's all green and lush vegetation. That's very nice as well.
Yes, we know you love Lord of the Rings. Andrew.
Yeah, I know.
You would just live there.
Okay, I do too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think the Shire is instructive of what we should organize our society around.
Yeah. I wouldn't
That's
mind
my
that.
politics. Is
Also,
this
I would say I do want to go to New Zealand one day and go to where they
Yeah,
have
me
like the
too.
Hobbiton set and all that stuff
Mhm.
because it looks so like real. Like you can like I've actually seen like Airbnbs that they've made into like Hobbit homes, and you can
That's
actually like
cute.
stay there. And I'm like, I don't know how much it costs. I don't even know where it's
A lot,
located. All I know is that it's a
probably.
Probably too
possible thing.
much. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
It's actually very expensive just to travel to that country.
Yes.
So
Or travel
New
anywhere.
Zealand is an expensive place.
Yeah.
I've looked into it. So,
Damn.
but awesome. I like the. It's a good pick. I'm glad when you told me that was going to be your movie. I was like, I can't wait to hear what she has to say about it because, and you know, just getting into Powell and Pressburger is an exciting thing. I know I was excited as I started going through more of their stuff, whether it's, you know, like you said, the Red Shoes or the something as small as like the 49th Parallel is one of their kind of lesser known, kind of awesome under the radar movies. And, you know, and then of course, just seeing what they did after they're kind of, you know, with Peeping Tom. And of course that ruined his career and everything like that. But, but that's a whole other movie. That's a whole other show.
Story.
Yeah. Yeah. Andrew, please,
Yes.
let's get into your pick this week.
Well, coincidentally, I also have a Criterion film, you could say. This is the movie Lone Star by John Sayles. What is interesting is we're going from Black Narcissus, which is definitely like, you know, steeped in thematic depth, and this film is also steeped in thematic depth. This is a film that came out in 1996 by John Sayles, who is notorious for doing a lot of independent films. Basically, that's all he did throughout his career was independent films. From starting from the late 70s all the way up through 2000s, and now he's still around. Obviously, there's a nice interview on here, like a 34-minute interview on here with him now that I think was done in 2023 by I'm trying to read off the back by filmmaker Gregory Nava, who did El Norte, which is also part of the Criterion Collection, and they just talk about this movie very much in depth, because this movie is layered. So let me just get to the surface level. Here
brief thing. El Norte, worst packaging of any Criterion ever.
It's one of their earlier Blu-ray releases. It's one of the ones where they had like the thin
I have it.
Yeah, the thin packs and then the slipcover over the thin pack, right?
It's not good.
And it's
Is it the same as their Chunking Express, if you know?
Their
I have
first
that one.
Chunking Express, I think, was like that, because that was an early release from them as well. They did that with like the Third Man as well, was in similar packaging.
Yeah, it's like the inside of an Indicator box set, but like flimsy.
Yeah. It's exactly because they kind of didn't know what they were going to do with their packaging at the time. That was before they came up with the.
I still don't think they really know what
disc.
they're gonna what they're doing with it, but I mean it's fine.
Yeah.
I like the movies.
Yeah, it's still very good. But this film is a movie that I've actually been wanting to watch for like 13 years, and I just never did. I had the DVD on like my first ever Amazon wish list that I made for myself just to keep track of things, and it was on there probably since like 2011. Because I had a college professor, and this was his favorite movie, and he mentioned it. And of course, at the time, I was like, like 24 years old. I really didn't know anything about American independent cinema, and I had no idea who John Sayles was. We watched Brother from Another Planet? Was his movie from 1984? We watched that in that class. That needs a nice Blu-ray release, mind you. Come on, Criterion, get on that.
I was going to say, next thing you know, it's going to be announced.
Yeah, next thing you know, I predicted that. But John Sayles also did the movie Mate One, which Criterion's released.
I got that one. Yeah.
8 Men Out, the movie. I think that's about the Chicago Black Sox.
Yeah, the baseball movie.
The baseball movie.
Like that.
But you can kind of get it. He's very much into movies dealing with politics and culture clashes and things like that, because those seem to be ever present within our society. These political issues, but Lone Star is a neo-Western, but takes that type of framework and delivers a lot of those things. So you have Chris Cooper here, who's a sheriff on a border town in Texas, and he two people from a local military base discover a body like in their shooting range, and the body just happens to be of a previous sheriff who mysteriously disappeared one day. It was the sheriff before his father was the sheriff. So there is some type of mystery here as to why, how did this person disappear? what were the circumstances around it. So he starts digging into those things. The thing is, like, that's like the main synopsis you will see on IMDb. You will see it on Letterboxd. That is only a MacGuffin to what is actually the movie is about. Like, that's the movie that sets off this journey of where he starts digging into the past, not only about his father and his life, but all the connections within this kind of small border town. And this small border town is, of course, made up of different people in different societies of life. You have Mexican immigrants. You have the original, white families who've been there forever. You have the indigenous peoples who've been there forever. You have the kind of mixed race people as well. Where do they fit into all of this? And what you get there is just a lot of, political and cultural friction and all of those things. And it's kind of a melting pot of what America actually is. It's all of these different cultures and different people, and how do they mesh with one another? What are the conflicts there? All of that stuff. And the movie is so seamlessly layered and delving into all of these different characters in this film. And the film has a few actors in it that you'll recognize. Like I said, Chris Cooper's in this film as well. Who else is in the movie? Matthew McConaughey is in the film as well in a very small role. Joe Morton, who is in Brother from Another Planet, he's in this film as well. And then in one scene, who shows up? I completely forget her name. I don't know why I'm blanking on it, but I won't dwell on that. But anywho, you'll notice certain people that show up just kind of randomly. But the movie screenplay is so good, well structured, impeccably well done. Like I said, a layered story, multiple movements of people and characters and plot lines in the movie, but you don't get lost. You don't get lost. The movie doesn't fall apart. In the hands of a lesser director and writer, the movie would probably fall apart, but it doesn't. And there's beautiful filmmaking transitions between scenes that happen in the present, that happen in the past. An incredible, astonishingly well-made movie. Like, when I was watching this movie, I was like, this is filmmaking at a pristine level. You know, when you get that feeling when you're watching a master at work doing something and it looks so easy and effortless, but in practicality, it's probably not. It's probably not. It's like if it was that easy, everyone would do it. But the way John Sayles does it makes it look so effortless. And the way he's able to balance all of the different things he's getting into when it comes to race and family and legacy and things like that. One of the biggest themes in this movie is this idea of, myth and legend and reputation and stuff like that. Like, when Chris Cooper goes on this journey and he's unearthing all of these truths that are kind of harsh truths, you know what I mean? Harsh truths to reality and facts. Do you bring those things to light, or do you just let them lie? Do you just leave them, alone? You just leave the legend as it is? Do you leave what people's perception of reality is, or do you shatter their perception of reality? You know what I mean? Because it's so muddled, there's both good and bad of what you're unearthing. It's a fascinating movie. I can't describe it without people watching it. But yeah, it was worth waiting 13 years to watch, to say the least. And I always saw it on like best movies of the 90s lists. And like every time when I went on Letterboxd, all I kept seeing was people calling it a masterpiece and all this kind of stuff, like 5-star ratings left and right. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be something to this, There's got to be something to it. But yeah, Lone Star is just incredibly incredible movie. Just astonishing. So let's just say it wasn't an easy movie to pair up with, but I think I got one when we get to that part. But yeah, this is the new Criterion 4K release. It's also out on Blu-ray. Check it out any way you can. If you can find it streaming, watch it there as well.
And that's why Andrew waited so long. He had to wait for like a
high
format. Like
the highest format.
He knew at the time when it was DVD time that there would be higher formats. So he waited years.
To be honest, it wasn't until they announced the Blu-ray and then the 4K subsequently that it got one. So I had to wait forever because it was stuck in that DVD world forever. But I'm glad I waited because it looks great too. Just throwing that out there.
Well, I would hope so. But you got me excited. I feel like I need to go get that film.
Yeah, I've not seen it. But Mate One is an all-time favorite of mine, and John Sayles is a king, so I gotta check that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it compares to that film very well because that film is dealing with you know unionization and politics and stuff like that,
And Chris Cooper's in it.
and Chris
Mhm.
Cooper's in it as well. Yeah, coincidentally.
What's funny is that I watched Mate One for the first time in a politics and film course in college. That was my introduction to it. So that's funny that we each saw different John Sayles films in college courses.
Mm, very
Yeah.
true.
Did John Sayles also do that movie with Chris Cooper in it called Breach? Didn't he do that movie too?
No, I don't
Yeah,
think that was
somebody
I don't
else
know.
maybe.
He did write Piranha.
He did.
Ah,
That was his first job. His
There's a-
first job was writing Piranha. He also wrote Alligator.
Oh yeah, I need to check
Yes.
because I was watching Piranha. I was like, this is kind of political, honestly. And I was like, oh, it's John Sayles.
Yeah, anytime you see John Sayles' name attached to a script, you're in
Mhm.
for a movie that is better than probably you would assume it would be. You would think Alligator, which is a movie about a giant mutated alligator, would be silly and funny, but it's great because John Sayles is in it. Well, he writes it. But yeah, I'm becoming a big fan of John Sayles. I got to get more of his work in my collection.
awesome! I love it. Got me excited. Awesome! I can't wait to eventually spend money on that because I will. But
Mhm.
that list keeps going on. All right, so I will tell you mine. This is one that I got from Indicator a good while ago, probably about a couple years ago now. And Paul Schrader is a director that I have dabbled in. Honestly, I haven't even seen some of his big ones. Like I haven't seen was it Mishima?
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Haven't seen that one. I have it, but I haven't seen it. And some of his lesser like some of the ones like I haven't seen Hardcore. There's a few that I have not seen, and this was on the list. Light Sleeper, starring Willem Dafoe, Susan Sarandon, and I love Willem Dafoe. I think Willem Dafoe's like top actor of our time right now. Like he, not only can he go into an ensemble and be a character actor and kind of let other people take front stage and but then still steal the show, but he can lead a film and pull back and not only be creepy, but he could also be very sentimental when he needs to be and warm and draw you in and make you, something like the Florida Project where he's playing a guy that is keeping up an apartment complex full of people and you can connect with that guy on that level. Then he can go do, some weird, character for what was that? The Northman. He played that one small part as like the weird, like ritual leader guy, or like little parts like that. He could, his Wes Anderson work, little characters he plays.
Doesn't miss.
He does not miss. I mean, he is.
I think of the movie where we played Van Gogh.
Van Gogh. Yeah, he's amazing in that. Yeah. But in Light Sleeper,
have either of you seen Kinds of Kindness, the new Yorgos joint?
I've not seen it yet.
Oh, it's so good, and he's so good in it. Like that was one where I was just like, he just doesn't turn in a bad performance ever. Like he's always on it. I watched Boondock Saints again recently, and I hated it so much. But he was like the one thing that I liked about it.
He's great in that movie, but that movie really kind of doesn't hold up.
Oh, it sure doesn't.
Over time, you realize how bad of a filmmaker Troy Duffy was.
Oh,
or
it
is.
does not hold up.
But then you realize that he was just kind of a bartender from Boston, so that's kind of perhaps why he's not a great filmmaker. But yeah, but Willem Dafoe is great in that movie.
Yeah.
All right,
but Light Sleeper. To get to know the film a little bit, Willem Dafoe plays essentially a drug dealer, delivery man, whatever you want to call it. And Susan Sarandon's like his boss. He works for her, delivering drugs. And in the film, he's at a point in his life where it's kind of midlife crisis in a way. Like he's trying to think of how to get out of the business. His own boss is getting out of the business. She's decided to get out of dealing drugs and wanting to turn the business over to, I believe it was selling cosmetics, I think, or something. So she's getting out of it and trying to go legit. And so now he's got to think about, what do I do with my life after this? Like, This is all I've done. And before I got into this, his character was a drug addict and has come out through the other side. And in the film, he comes across his ex, played by, I think it's Mary Beth Hurt, plays his ex, and she was also, addicted to drugs as well, and had come out the other side. And so they have meet in the film again after a long time. And, there's some back and forth, there's some reluctance, so it gets complicated. But a lot of this film, I feel like is very kind of meditative in a way. Like it's very, contemplative of like, kind of what do I do when I don't know, like it's kind of a sad movie. The whole movie is kind of sad, to be honest. And in the fashion of Paul Schrader, it ends in violence and like a lot of his films. And of course, this film very much takes the kind of the archetype of some of his previous work, whether it's Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. There's another film that even something like First Reformed, which is a more recent film, kind of takes on this similar archetype in a way. But compared to them movies, this film I feel like is a lot more subdued, a lot lighter. It's in the title, in a way, but it's dealing with interesting subject matters of people that are part of a lifestyle for a long time and living this extreme life, and they're trying to pull back. They're trying to make their life better. And sometimes it's hard to come back from what you put yourself in. I don't know. It's an interesting. I believe both of you have seen this, right?
Mm-hmm. I've seen that one.
Yeah. So it's as all of us, it's our first times watching it. What did you guys pull from this film when you saw it?
I saw it on the Criterion Channel a while ago, and the two things that come to mind is first is a very nocturnal feel as kind of a sort of insomniac character, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Where the title comes from. And I also remember the soundtrack, which is really overbearing, I think, like extremely like melodramatic and kind of very. Did I say overbearing already?
Overbearing,
that's just really how I feel about it.
Yeah.
It's distracting. But overall, I do really like it. I don't know. Paul Schrader is kind of an angsty guy, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul Schrader loves existentialism, and I feel like he must have like in college, he probably like learned about existentialism and was like, I'm going to make this my entire rest of my life. And because all of his movies have that archetype that Stephen was talking about. It's these kind of lonely guys going through existential crises at a specific time in their lives, whether it be Travis Bickle, whether it be in American Gigolo, whether it be even in hardcore, this person's kind of going on a journey. It's a horrific journey for George C. Scott in that movie. But even his more modern work, I'm thinking of The Card Counter, the one with what's his name? Stephen Isaac.
The
last name's Isaac. Why?
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac. Thank you. And then of course The Gardener, which is one of his more recent film. And it's kind of all of these same type of archetypical guys going through these existential journeys. Light Sleeper for me though is really good because Willem Dafoe is so good in it.
Well, we knew that.
You can. It's not so much about his actions in the film. You can see the emotional journey he's going on internally. You know what I mean? There are certain shots of his face. He has one of the most expressive faces you'll ever see in acting. And that's on full display, I think, in that movie, and I think in every movie he's in. He's just kind of going through it, for lack of a better terminology there.
I think the acting carries the film. I mean, of course, very much, yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's there's a great feature on here that sits with Paul Schrader for about, I think it was a good 20 minutes or so. He's just sitting there and talking about the film and kind of the, how he where he was, where he was when he wrote it, and the reception to it, and he understands that, independent cinema which is what he's basically worked in his whole career, is not, this type of movie was not a movie that was being made at the time. It used to be, and that's part of what Paul Schrader is part of that angstiness that you're talking about. He's all about sticking to his guns, what he believes in cinema and what makes good cinema, and sticking to that and not going with the trends. And that's one thing about him. He's kind of punk rock in a way, in that way. He does not change his beliefs now. He's controversial in other things. We're not going to get into all. He's very much likes to speak his mind on issues.
His
but
Facebook page is a fun follow.
It's yeah.
It is wild. It's wild.
But when it comes to filmmaking, he's very much a maverick in that way. That he some could say he tells a lot of the same stories, but that's what he's writing what he knows, and he's things that are inside of him, and I think that's important. We got so many filmmakers out there. They need to be telling stories that come from them instead of trying so much to, make something out of thin air. That, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with being creative, but I think it's important that filmmakers take themselves and put it in their work.
Oh, very much so. He's very much an auteur in that regard.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's just screenplay that he's writing, like for example, we talked about him working with Scorsese and for Travis Bickle, but of course for Bringing Out the Dead, which I think was the last time they worked together. I mean, Nicolas Cage is going through quite a journey in that movie. Quite a journey.
That's mm-hmm. But
Taxi Driver. Oh no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that Taxi Driver is a really interesting case study in auteur theory, and that it is both. It almost feels like it is entirely Scorsese and entirely Schrader's work. It kind of like enforces and also debunks the auteur theory like all at once. It's just something that's occurring to me now that I think is interesting.
Yeah.
God, that could be its own video talking about that. The tourist.
Well, this idea of the auteur theory, which is interesting that you mentioned that, because when we're thinking auteurs, I think we're thinking of people who both write and direct their own films.
Mm-hmm.
And as opposed to what Celeste just said, which is, having two people, one write the script, one do it, and then but having it so close to being on the same level as one another that it's almost as if it's one synergetic kind of story.
I mean, I've always thought of auteurs as just being filmmakers that have an obvious style or an obvious tone. Very
Distinct.
Recognizable, whether it's, Tim Burton, Tim Burton's got a specific style that is his, that nobody else knows. I mean, even Paul Thomas Anderson, and his isn't even visual. His is just like a tone, like his dialogue, or, I mean, there's ones that are more subtle and there's ones that are more obvious, like Tarantino. You would know exactly who that was a Tarantino movie when you saw it, even if you didn't know he would, like his name wasn't plastered all over it. Them are how I see auteurs, but I don't, like I said, it could be its own video. But Light Sleeper, I thought it was solid. I like I said, I think it was very much carried by performances, but I'd be interested to watch some of the Schrader that I have not seen. Mishima seems to be like a big one that I need to watch. That's like completely different than any of his other films that I've seen. It looks to be completely different. So
it's like anthological. It's like mystical. Yeah. It's fascinating. It's also based on like a real person.
It's a biopic of a really fascinating, like fascistic, like gay Japanese man. I don't know. Okay. I know more about him than I know about the film, and I really need to see it.
Each segment tells like a specific story about a specific part of his life, and it's all done very avant-garde-esque.
Yeah,
very avant-garde-esque.
Okay, but this is, like I said, an indicator release. It's got decent amount of features on it. It is a region B, so you would have to, of course, have a region free player. But come on, guys.
Did Kino do this in the US? Does we know off the top of our head?
I do not know.
I'm looking at it right now. It does not have a Blu-ray release here yet.
Interesting.
Doesn't? Yeah. If you go on to Blu-ray.com, it doesn't have.
Sounds like a Criterion to me.
I was gonna say either Kino is holding it up for some reason, or Criterion is
Let's see.
hanging on to it, as would be my guess.
So it, someone's holding on to it.
Well, all right.
All right.
We'll figure that out later. So Celeste, back to you. We got to figure out what you're pairing with Black Narcissus. I mean, this is.
All right.
I can't wait to hear this one.
I went with, from our friends at Severn Films, The Story of a Cloistered Nun. The reason I picked Black Narcissus is because a viewer and patron of mine was kind enough to send me the Nasty Habits box set. Shout out Dr. Jeff Butcher, because it was on sale on Amazon, and this is my kind of thing, as it were. So I watched that whole box set.
I have the set myself sitting over here.
I watched the whole thing. I really enjoyed it, and at the end of it, I was like, oh, this would be a great opportunity to watch Black Narcissus. I won't get to it because I have a million other things I need to watch, but I would like to just kind of go backwards a bit and watch that. And then you hit me up, and I was like, perfect. Let's do that. So yeah, it's kind of like the almost like the blueprint for the real sleazy shit that came later. And this one, I picked this one out of the box because it's the least sleazy, I think, and the most dramatic. I actually do think it. I don't like this distinction, but just so you know what I'm talking about, I think this is like a genuinely good film. Like I think that you could sell this to somebody as like an erotic drama, and they would be into it. There's definitely erotic parts in it, but it is mainly like a character study of this one woman and her journey in the convent, and it shares a lot thematically with Black Narcissus and the kind of older nun films, while also incorporating the high amounts of nudity and like erotic or sort of kinky punishment and stuff like that. But it's not.
I believe I have watched this one. It's when it first came, when I first got this set. I believe I watched this set. I believe I really liked it too.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't say this. I think I might like it a little bit better. I like them about the same, just for different reasons.
I like a good sleazy nun movie. I mean, sometimes it's.
I love the concept of nunsploitation. I just love the idea of just kind of sticking it to religious authoritarian systems.
Yeah, well, it's good for a certain type of person that may or may not be me. I'm being asked the director. Let's find out. I don't actually remember. Directed by Domenico Palea. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Sounds,
not a name.
Sounds like me over there. Sounds like me trying to pronounce something.
That box set is all Italian, which I think is interesting. And there's some
Andrew's good at
wild
speaking
shit
Italian. Come on, Andrew.
Yeah, I don't have the movie up in front of me.
It sounds like paella, like the Spanish dish, but with an extra syllable, so it's throwing me out. It's throwing me off. Anyway, I think that these would be a good pairing if you want to kind of start a little artsier and a little more subtle, and then kind of lean in to the aspects of this story that I feel like are in the undercurrent, but couldn't actually be fully explored on account of the Hays Code and Catholic Decency League and things of that nature.
Yeah, you would start.
Decency is not a concern for our second feature.
No.
When the Catholic Decency League used to condemn movies, they would just put like a big C on it for condemned. I almost I thought about this thought experiment, just going back and finding all the movies they condemned and then just watching them all, just out of spite and out of.
I'm sure there's a letterbox list.
Oh, there must be by now.
I'm gonna get that logo on a shirt or something. Like that could be fun.
That'd be awesome. I was. Yeah, you start Black Narcissus at 9. Like 9. How long is that movie? Like 3 hours long?
That's an hour 45. That's actually pretty.
I'm thinking of every other Power Press. I'm thinking of every other Power Pressburger film. So you start that one at like 9, and then give people a little break, and then at midnight you start the other film.
That's a midnight movie.
That's a midnight movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's Nuns After Midnight.
Yeah.
Nice.
Ooh, that sounds like a great TV dinner and a movie. Nuns After Midnight. Welcome to Nuns After Midnight.
Sounds like a classic heavy metal song or something.
Let's write that. I got a project to do offline. Nuns After Midnight. Yeah. So awesome. Yeah, I love it. I need to letterbox these pairings. It's a new project of mine. I got to go back.
Interesting. I never thought of that.
I need to do something like that for these pairings we do on this show, because I need to be able to look back on them. I just don't want to give people a reason not to watch, because if they just know, then they might not listen to us. I don't know. Double-edged story there. But all right, I like it. Andrew, please tell us. Lone Star, what's going to come with Lone Star? Because now you're going to make me watch 2 movies.
Okay, as I mentioned with Lone Star, as it being kind of this neo-Western, I thought I would just go back in time to a regular Western and
Back to the Future 3? Back to the Future?
No. I was actually
My favorite Back to the Future movie.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting thought there. I almost want to ask more of that, but we gotta stay on track. Stay on track. Because you're not the first person to say that.
Mhm.
But so I was thinking of maybe some neo noir from the '90s. I was thinking something like that. But you know what? I'm gonna go back because there was one specific theme I talked about.
I can see it,
and it's The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, the John Ford film. I never know what is in frame and what's not in frame.
Yeah, I was like, calm down. You're messing up the buildup.
And so The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, because like I said with Lone Star, there is a specific theme in there of this idea of when it comes to legend versus reality, what do you want people to remember? What do you let people remember as well? I think in our society we have a lot of misinformation and a lot of things that are more opinions versus fact, more legends and what is perceived to be real, what is not real, that people have been led to believe about certain things. One thing I didn't mention in the Lone Stars is there is a specific running theme of the idea of the Alamo. Like what actually happened at the Alamo versus what is taught in schools at the Alamo, which is what people believe is the Alamo and what it represents, what it's about, all this kinds of things. That's a big thing in there. But in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, it's playing on a lot of those ideas of like, when it comes to legend versus reality, what do you print when it comes to news and books? And what do you say when it comes to oral history? Do you let the legend be what it is because that's what comforts people the most, or do you show them the reality even though it's the complete opposite of what the legend may be? In this film here, you've got Jimmy Stewart, you have John Wayne, and I believe Lee Marvin is the titled Liberty Valance, and he's kind of this ruffian, bad guy who's creates a lot of problems, and I don't want to say a lot, but in the movie, he gets shot. Like he gets shot in a duel, and people believe that the person, or who the person is the they believe a certain person did it, but in reality, it's not that person. But because he is the one who took the credit for it, because he's the one who everyone believes it to be, his life is more enriched because of it. And in this movie, you learn about what the true facts of the matter are. Just like in Lone Star, you learn about the true facts of the matter when it comes to a lot of revelations in that film. When it comes to that overall murder mystery story that I was talking about, you learn facts about that, and it's like it's not quite what you expect it to be. And do you just let the past be the past, or do you bring it to light? I think that's something that we are struggling with a lot in our society now when it comes to history and culture and things like that. So that's very relevant to modern time and probably to all time. But Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is probably one of my favorite classic westerns of all time. Probably my favorite John Ford film is this one here. This is just the regular, literally zero special features Blu-ray. There's since been a Paramount Presents release of the 4K and Blu-ray. I think they re-released it again in 4K in a non-Paramount Presents release for some ungodly reason.
Yeah. I'm surprised you don't have either of them.
Yeah,
I'm not. He waits really long time.
I know, I do. I've been wanting to get it for years, actually, since it was announced. I got to get it. It may or may not be currently on my watch list on eBay. Probably is. It is on there. The ever extended list on another random site of movies. But yeah, so this is The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. I thought it was a good pairing with that when it came to kind of myth building and kind of unearthing the past.
I've not seen either of them, but from your descriptions, they sound like a very thematically, what's the word I'm looking for? Cohesive? Double pairing, perhaps?
Very much so. Very much so. And this idea of kind of like the Western setting as well, where there is a lot of kind of, not like lawlessness, but lawlessness in the idea that, people can get away with a lot more because of the location, because of the culture, because of the people involved. You know what I mean? And that seemed to be true. That seems to be true in a lot of places, but in kind of a modern way. This is me getting on my soapbox. I'm glad Steven's here. In the modern way, a lot of that kind of secretive stuff that's going on is being brought to light because we have cell phone cameras now. Police carry body cams. We've got traffic cameras and CCTV cameras. So all of these things that have kind of been hidden when it came to the past are now all in the light of day, and we as a society now don't know how to deal with it. We really don't, and it's fascinating how to see it play out on a day-to-day historical basis. Really, not just me getting on a soapbox. Steven, stop me.
Oh no, man, I can't. I don't have the energy for it anymore. I used to have the energy because I was I was involved, but now I just let you.
Having to be my own spot man or my own wrangler is not easy because you just want to go. You just want to go off. You know what I mean?
You talk to yourself. You're like, stop.
Yeah, you gotta stop it. Gotta cut it off.
No, it's good stuff, man. You gotta fill time. So it's good that you go you ramble on about things. It's you gotta fill time. It's just you.
It's the whole job as a podcaster is to be a yapper. So you're doing
He's
the
good
thing.
at it,
You're doing
man.
the thing. Yeah.
He's good at it. That's why he continued chasing labels. That's
very true.
You can do it, man.
But I'm curious what you're going to pair with Light Sleeper, Steven.
All right. So I think this is part. I think that's one of the interesting things about this show is like what you take from your first watch. What you. It could say a lot about what kind of film watcher you are. And I'm very much like Andrew, and I think you're this way too, Celeste. You look at themes a lot, and sometimes it's hard to decipher all the themes out, in one watch. So it's not always clear to you. Sometimes it's very clear. And for Light Sleeper, I did take some things from it. I did take this sense of midlife crisis, kind of this some of this sense of like isolation, a little bit, trying to figure out, feeling isolated by the world that you've created for yourself, like kind of thing. And so I tried to think of another film that involved criminals or maybe an alternative lifestyle of some type, and where the characters are dealing with something that has changed their life or something that they have to do to something that there's a moment here, and now we have to sit back and think about what we do next and contemplate. And it took me a second to I had a couple ideas, but I landed on this film because I love it so much, and I think it's one we could probably all talk about because I think we've all seen it. And that is the film by Martin McDonagh, In Bruges.
I've not seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen In Bruges?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
No,
well,
the only ones of his films that I've seen is The Banshees of Inisherin, which I love.
Which is amazing.
So I need to check it out.
What a screenplay.
Yeah. I mean, just bulletproof writing and performances. It's just like, it's so good.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, the same two stars of that movie are in this film. Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell. They both play hitman, I guess, hitman. I was going to say assassins, but no, they're hitmen. And so Colin Farrell, of course, he's a rookie hitman, and on his first job, he accidentally, inadvertently kills a kid. So then he is sent by Ray Fiennes plays their boss, and he sends them away to this small town. I believe it's in Europe somewhere, Bruges. And to hang tight there while they figure out what the next move will be. And so Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell go there, and it's a very small, quaint, village, little city, feels like it's its own world. And in this movie, it's kind of like purgatory in a way. It's very isolating. A lot of people there, but everybody's kind of off, kind of doing their own thing. It's very nice and quiet, and they're there, and they're kind of there. They're kind of the fish out of water, very different type of people that are there. And so, I think in comparison to Light Sleeper, I just looked at the fact that, they're there and it's this isolating thing where they're both having to make a decision. Now we're at this decision because Harry, who's played by Ray Fiennes, he's like totally against killing kids. So eventually, and now this isn't, I mean, I don't want to spoil the movie, but essentially there is a deciding factor of whether Colin Farrell should be living or dying at this point, because of the accident that happened. And so there is a little bit of a contemplating of, what we do there. And at the same time, you got Brendan Gleeson, who is a veteran of the trade, kind of also while they're kind of thinking about life and thinking about what he does. And, it's hard to talk about the movie without spoiling it, but I just find both of them to be kind of meditative in a way about, where you are in your life, thinking about, and then of course these two people are involved in criminal activity. And that's where it kind of somewhat intersects. But Andrew, what do you think? What do you think? Do you find a connection here, or am I just grasping?
No. This idea of kind of literal existentialism, because they're kind of trying to figure out what's going to happen to the Colin Farrell character because he has screwed up at this job. And I don't know if you know this, Stephen. If you screw up as an assassin, or as a hitman, there's probably some consequences there. Consequences there. Nothing's
and in both films, because in a way I kind of look at the two main characters of In Bruges being kind of an encapsulation of the Willem Dafoe character. He's trying, he's both parts of them were there at some point. The Colin Farrell character is kind of like representative of Dafoe's character early on in his life when he was an addict. He was reckless. And he probably hurt people. And then he's grown into the Brendan Gleeson character. He's become more aware and more sensitive and more, and wanting to, and throughout the film is looking at the world around him and thinking about like maybe how to do something different, different.
They're very much two sides of the same coin, I guess you could say. They're both on opposite ends of a life and opposite ends of a career. Colin Farrell is kind of young, brash, impatient. He just keeps complaining, like, why are we in Bruges? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And Brendan Gleeson's like telling him, like, hey, just, relax, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the food, enjoy the time you're here, all this kind of stuff. And he just like, really, like in fucking Bruges, I don't care, you know what I mean? So it's very interesting that way. I remember the movie specifically because I believe Colin Farrell won a Golden Globe for his performance in this movie. Also, the screenplay is incredible in Bruges. I've recommended this movie to so many people because it's such an underrated movie that no one really talks about, specifically when it comes to Colin Farrell. And I still think Brendan Gleeson's relatively unknown. I mean, he's in things like, heck, he was in a Harry Potter movie. Got to be pretty big to be in that. But still, I think he's kind of a relatively, independent actor. And I think Colin Farrell is fantastic in it. What's the director? What is it? Martin McDonagh?
Martin McDonagh.
Yeah, Martin McDonagh. He writes really good screenplays. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he comes from the world of theater. So he's written a lot of plays and he's won like awards for plays and stuff like that. And
he also spends like 5 years.
He doesn't make a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Like in the last 15 years, I think actually when did In Bruges came out? 2008?
2008, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's only made 3 movies since he made In Bruges. He made what's the
Seven Psychopaths.
7 Psychopaths, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And then he did the most recent one that Banshees of Inisherin that Celeste talked about. So only 4 movies in the last 16 years, which is, I guess, not a lot, but it's a decent amount. But they're all really good. I think they all have amazing screenplays. Banshees of Inisherin, I'm still shocked to this day that movie didn't win an Oscar for a screenplay, just because of how good it is. Baffling to me. But yeah, In Bruges is fantastic, and I think that edition you have is the one from Second Sight.
It is
from 2019, which I completely forgot existed until you just held it up. Completely forgot about it.
Yes,
because
I almost didn't get this.
Put out a 4K of it a couple of years ago.
It doesn't matter. I like this.
That is a very nice edition. That is a very nice edition.
You can only get so much better looking than
True.
Blu-ray. I mean,
and I'm pretty sure the Second Sight editions typically have exclusive special features.
They do.
I'm very much in chasing labels mode now, like 24/7.
Yeah.
So that's why I think of these things all the time.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah, great
I
movie.
mean, like, yeah. But do you see where I'm connecting there? Yeah. To me, it's about.
Existential crises.
Yeah. I mean,
That's the easy connection right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's.
They're tonally a little bit different
They
because
are.
In Bruges is a dark comedy. That's the one thing
Yeah.
with Martin McDonough's. His movies are dark comedies, like black comedies,
Yeah. And
which
I
is an
like
acquired taste.
I like that too. I mean, just like Celeste's picks, it's good to have when you're doing your pairing. It's good to maybe have some thematic connection, but then like tonally, maybe it's good to have like something that's either a little bit more upbeat on one, to liven it up a little bit. You don't want it to be too. You don't want to you don't want to do like a Bergman film with a Bergman film. Just kidding, Tony. Because that's what he remember when we had to.
Yeah, he did do double Bergman.
Two Bergmans.
Did do double Bergman.
Yeah, he did.
It's a Bergman sandwich.
But yeah, it's you don't. I just like having some contrast. I almost paired True Romance with this. I thought like two people getting together and then like kind of embracing the criminal aspect of the whole thing would be kind of like a weird contrast. And then it ends in gunfire, kind of similarly to.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
that's not a bad pick.
But I was just like, I don't know, let me hone it in a little bit, and I thought maybe that'd be a little bit too radical.
I almost chose another one. Like I said, I was thinking neo noir from the '90s to pair with Lone Star, and I'm trying to think of. It's the movie with Denzel Washington, Devil in a Blue Dress.
Devil in a Blue Dress.
Devil in a Blue Dress, just because of the way in which those movies are structured similarly, where you have multiple characters, storylines, and you've got like a whole mystery that's kind of pushing the plot along, and you get certain plot revelations because of it. Yeah, that's what I was initially thinking.
All right.
Ronnie was just watching me hold my tongue the whole time.
Oh yes, I forget. Yeah, Celeste, you do not like True Romance.
I
right?
really, really don't like it. Yeah, I think it's Tarantino's worst screenplay, like by a mile. But that's okay.
Well, I mean,
I do think it makes sense for the pairing after you explained it. I was like, okay, I see it.
Well, I mean, but it's it's definitely crazy. It is a sloppy screenplay. It's not, but I don't know. It's a fun. I actually watched the Siskel and Ebert review of True Romance, like just kind of researching what I wanted to do, and they both Siskel did not like the movie either. Ebert liked it for its entertainment value, but they both agreed that it was like juvenile and like just for teenagers, like for like that it's just just a juvenile movie, like that it's for kids basically. That it didn't really make it's just Tarantino. He's a young budding filmmaker writing. This before he put out his first film, I believe. He wrote this before he put out his first film. So, yeah, I mean, it's to me, I like watching it, but I could see how it might not. Let's not. We'll go down a rabbit hole. I'm turning into Andrew now.
You're back in the machine.
Yeah. So, but yeah, good shout out to Tony. Yeah, you're welcome. But awesome. Well, that is it for our number 14 installment of the Unwatched pile.
My double feature felt a little obvious, but it's also kind of like sometimes the answer is right there.
It's right there sometimes. Exactly. I agree. I mean, I don't know. I mean, when you do a movie about nuns, I mean, what do you do? I mean, like, what are you gonna put like? You have to do another nun movie.
But when I think of Black Narcissus, I think of like oppression and suppression. So I'm like, okay, what movies deal with that?
Yeah.
Pink Narcissus would be a very cool double feature with that, but that does not exist on Blu-ray. So
that would be, and you have to own it anyway. That's part of this, guys. So, but I loved it. I love all the pairings here. And yeah, Celeste, we got it again.
Right on.
All right. Is your cat's okay? You. Your cat's okay now, right?
Oh yeah. Sorry, you cut out for a little bit, so I'm not.
Okay,
I didn't exactly hear what you said. Yeah, the cats are okay.
All right. All right, Celeste. Well, please tell everybody where to find you. And please, I know you got a lot going on. We hope to see you doing some more videos soon.
Thanks. I hope to be back soon. Yeah, sometime in August I should be returning. But if you look up Celeste de la Cabra on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, you'll find me. And if you look up letterbox.com/inhuman ecstasy, you can find me there and at least know what I'm watching in my absence. So, and I've been trying to write more reviews there while I'm not making videos. So there's
That's
that.
good. Yeah, I'm trying to get a little bit more into writing myself. Not necessarily for other people, but just for myself. Just writing more, just writing my thoughts down more.
Yeah.
It's good therapy. It's good. It's good just to get it out of your head. Because you got too much going on up there.
Well, in like 3 years, when you've watched 1,500 movies since then, you can kind of forget. And then if you have a review there, you can be like, oh yeah, that's because I'll see stuff and people be like, why didn't you like that? And I'll be like, I honestly don't really remember, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you. I know exactly what you're talking about. Exactly what you're talking about. But you can also obviously Chasing Labels. You can find on places where you can listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, the usual places. Obviously, I'll be streaming here for the episodes when we initially do them. The next episode will be this coming Monday, which is a date I cannot remember, but obviously I will be going over the new Vinegar Syndrome stuff that's going to be dropping this Thursday. So that will be kind of the main bulk of that day, plus the new Arrow stuff that dropped, plus Umbrella, and other stuff from the boutique label world.
Yeah, you're making me sweat. I'm glad I'm not doing it. But yes, please.
I'm dreading Thursday. I can tell you that.
But please subscribe if you haven't. Please share it around. Please let us know what you think. Leave comments. And yeah, thank you guys for hanging around with us. And you can listen to this on audio as well here in the next day or so. But thanks everybody, and I don't know what the hell you guys are still doing here. You should be fucking watching movies right now. Just
get to your piles.
That's what I'll
get
do
to your piles.
after we sign off.
Yeah, I know. Just get the hell out of here. Good night.